To our fallen brethren, may they live on in our memories. Rest in peace, brothers. Oh. Whew. That's some good old whiskey right there. Now, what was I doing before this? Oh, right. Manners maketh man.
Take me home to the place I belong.
Well, howdy, y'all. Agent BCG here, just enjoying myself a little sip of whiskey. Oh, and I'm also here to review the latest film called Kingsman, The Golden Circle. So, why don't we just fill it up a little bit here, take a little sip, and let's get started. Now, Kingsman The Golden Circle begins with the complete annihilation of the Kingsman organization. A moment of silence and a toast to our fallen brothers. They will be missed. And the two surviving members of the Kingsmen, Agent Galahad, aka Eggsy, and Agent Merlin, set off to find another secret organization in the United States called the Statesmen. And they team up with the Statesmen to find the people responsible for the destruction of the Kingsmen, an evil drug cartel known as the Golden Circle. Now, I myself really enjoyed the first Kingsman. I won't go so far to say that it was one of my favorite films of 2015. I know a lot of people love that film, so it's kind of controversial to say something like that. But it still was a hell of a fun time. And I was looking forward to seeing the Golden Circle. The only problem I had with the Golden Circle is the fact that they brought back the old Galahad played by Colin Firth. I just felt like it was kind of a cop-out to bring him back. I mean, he clearly died, and there was some weight to his death, and I thought he didn't need to come back. But then they announced the sequel, and that Colin Firth was going to be coming back for the sequel, and I'm like, wait, how's that possible? Unless he's going to show up in, like, flashbacks, that makes sense, but as a character in the film himself, okay, let's see how you guys handle that. We'll get into that a little later. But other than that, I was looking forward to it. It looked like it was going to be a fun time, and it looked like it was going to carry on in the spirit as the first one. And they brought most of the team back to do this one. So again, looking forward to it. So let us begin by discussing some of the positives of the film, shall we? The action scenes here are still fun as hell to watch, guys. They are the best thing about Kingsman The Golden Circle. They're exhilarating, exciting, and very creative. I really got a kick out of the action choreography and the cinematography that accompanied it. The camera felt like its own character, moving with such frenetic energy, following the action no matter where it went, and never once got shaky. They don't resort to using shaky cam in any of the action scenes, which I freaking love them for. The camera movement is smooth, clean, and you can see the action unfolding right in front of you. I did have a couple irritations with the action scenes. Like, I didn't like how they would zoom into the fight, then zoom out. It did get a bit distracting, as well as its heavy use of CGI and green screen backgrounds, but I kind of attribute that to the unique style of the action scenes and the film itself. The only real problem I had with the action scenes was its heavy reliance on slow-mo. I mean, again, you could attribute that to the overall style of the film, but I mean, come on, what is this, the mid-2000s? What, did Zack Snyder direct these action scenes? Like, the actual director, Matthew Vaughn's like, okay, Zack, take these action scenes, work your magic, put that Snyder vision on, and then I'll come back and tell the actual story. And I was just like, why did we have to keep resorting to the slow-mo? It just was a bit distracting and not really that useful. It was doing really well with the fast-paced action instead of resorting to slow-mo. But you know what? That's neither here nor there. That's a stylistic choice. And if some people like that, that's fine. For me, just really distracting. Overall, action scenes, really great. In fact, the film opens up with a pretty awesome action scene where Eggsy is fighting a character in the car. And as I was watching it, I was saying to myself, somebody watched The Raid 2 recently, as the way that the camera moves in the fight that happens is damn near identical to a fight that happens in The Raid 2. It's just that there are fewer characters in the action scene. But either way, an action scene inspired by one of the Raid films is never a bad thing. The acting in the film was quite solid, from the likes of Colin Firth, who I think did give a pretty dynamic performance, to the main guy, who also did really well in the emotional scenes. I don't really know how to say his name, I'll put it right here. Mark Strong was really good, Julianne Moore was serviceable, Jeff Bridges was just being Jeff Bridges, like, oh, you want me to talk like this? I'll talk like this throughout the entire film. I can do that in my sleep. Yeah, let me talk like a southerner. You got Channing Tatum, he was pretty good. And finally, Pedro Pascal. I really enjoyed his acting, although his accent kind of went in and out. Sometimes he was doing a southern accent, other times I could actually hear his real accent seeping in. And he has a thick accent. It's hard not to notice it. But kind of playing off of that, Pedro Pascal's character was my favorite character in the entire film. This guy was just cool. Agent Whiskey, love that guy. You know what? To Agent Whiskey. You killed it, man. I love this character. He's basically everything that Colin Firth's character was in the first film, but even more badass. There is this bar scene that is very reminiscent of the first film. Whoo! That shit was cool. And in fact, every action scene this character is in are the best action scenes in the entire film. Minus the car chase scene at the very beginning of the film. He had some of the best action scenes. I really enjoyed this character. I wish we could have followed him a bit more. And the other characters, when they were on screen, were quite enjoyable as well, especially the main character, Eggsy. He's such a likable, charming, and charismatic protagonist that you can't help but root for from the get-go. You want this character to succeed. And his relationship with Galahad is still strong, still dynamic. I felt chemistry there between them still. And the scene where they're first reunited was both touching and heartbreaking. And the guy who plays Eggsy, I don't give him enough props. That guy was fantastic in this film. And he has such a range with his performance. He could pull off dramatic, he could pull off comedic, he could pull off being an action hero. I mean, this guy, he's really good. He's probably the best performance in the entire film. Let's see, is there any other things I liked about the film? Let me think. Nope. That's it. That's all the pros I have. And unfortunately, now it's time for us to talk about all the problems with Kingsman, the Golden Circle. And unfortunately, the sequel has more problems than the original, for me. My first and biggest problem with Kingsman, the Golden Circle, is that it felt like a watered-down version of Kingsman, the Secret Service, as it rehashes many of the same things from the first film. From recreating some of the most memorable scenes from the first film, to the villain and their evil schemes, to the climax of the film, it just feels like a carbon copy of the first film instead of being an actual sequel trying to do something different. It just resorts to kind of taking the old story, reshifting some parts here and there, and then presenting it as if it was something new. And with that said, the story this time around wasn't all that engaging. Yeah, sure, there are fun parts of the story, but it wasn't as captivating or as interesting as the first film's story. I really liked the story in the first film. Yeah, it is an origin story, but it's a really well done origin story. Here, it's more of a mission-based story, and I saw what they were doing, but the story just didn't grip me like the first one did. I will give the story this. There was a fascinating part dealing with prejudice and not jumping to conclusions and trying to hear the other side, and I wish they could have explored that a bit more. It would have made the story much more interesting, kind of showing like a gray area between things. In fact, there was a moral conflict in the movie that should have been explored way more and would have made the character much more interesting and maybe even make the dilemma much more conflicting. Maybe even have the characters kind of say, you know what, that kind of makes sense. I kind of see where you're coming from. It could have been both a conflict morally and physically. But no, they just focus more on the spectacle. You know, ooh, blow up, explosions, gunfight, cool shit. And that's fine, you know, that's what the film wanted to be, totally cool. but they had the opportunity to be much more than just physical altercations and could have been a battle of morals. The main villain, Polly, played by Julianne Moore, is such a lackluster villain. She's that cliche, pretend to be very nice while also threatening you type villain that is just not intimidating to me. She wasn't scary, she wasn't threatening, she didn't feel like this imposing threat the whole time, and I just was kind of bored by her character. There wasn't really anything interesting about her. She's no Samuel L. Jackson. The villain in the first film was fascinating. It was different. It was a lot of fun. Like it felt like a fun villain. Here, she just feels like a stereotypical villain out for some type of world domination sort of thing that's not really world domination, but she's just so boring and conventional. And I kind of was expecting something a bit more interesting and fun with this character, but nope. She's just, oh yeah, look at me, I'm such a sweetheart, but don't you ever fuck with me, don't you cross me, or I'll sick my mechanical dogs on you, watch out! And since I touched upon the villain, let's also discuss the myriad of problems with the other characters, shall we? Starting off with Old Galahad, played by Colin Firth. Man, I was so disappointed when I heard that he was coming back in the sequel. I hated that idea, because I loved the way that his character died in the first film, as it was impactful and very well done. By bringing him back in the sequel, you completely negate that meaningful death and ruin everything that it stood for. And the way that they bring him back is complete bullshit. It's a fucking cop-out, and I hated it. I'm like, wow. I mean, I already did not like the fact that he came back, but the way he came back, wow, that is insulting. What? There were some major deaths in this film that, although I understood why they died, I hated the fact that they died. I won't give away all of them, but there is one I will give away because it's at the very beginning of the film. Well, not the very beginning. It's in the first 10 minutes of the film. And you kind of already know that they're gonna die. It's the girl from the first film. She dies in the film. And I was so mad because one of the biggest problems I had with the first film is we do spend a lot of time with Eggsy, but we don't get to spend a lot of time with that girl agent. Hell, I don't even know what her name was. And they just wipe her out of the film. And I'm like, damn it, dude, that's actually the character I wanted to stick around so we can actually see her bonding with Eggsy, maybe getting close. It seemed like they had a friendship. Oh, hopefully they explore that in the sequel. Nope. She gets blown to smithereens. Nice. Another character issue I had with the film was with Channing Tatum's character. I believe he was Agent Tequila. He does absolutely nothing in this film. He shows up, kicks the shit out of Eggsy and Merlin, and then takes them into Statesman. He says a couple lines here, and then he's not in the film that much. How do you go out of your way to cast Channing Tatum in this film and don't even put him in any really big scene? Like, I was so baffled by this. I was excited. I'm like, oh wow, Channing Tatum's in this film? Oh man, I can't wait to see him in some of these cool action scenes. And he has that shotgun, and he looks so cool in the trailer. I'm like, wow, this guy's gonna be a badass. And he had that one badass scene, which was very brief, but it was pretty badass. It showed the potential of what the character could have been if he was in more scenes. And they kind of make this whole parallel where he's basically the American Eggsy, which I thought that's really cool. Maybe we can see him bond with Eggsy. They go on a mission together and like, hey, you know, we're kind of similar, aren't we? Yeah, we really are. Toast, brother. Yes, toast, chap. That would have been great. Building chemistry with these two characters as they're going to probably work together later on in the future. That would have been great, but they just kind of wrote his character out of the film for a couple of scenes, and he pops in now and again to do something funny or say a line or two or just to show Channing Tatum's face. I'm like, you hired Channing Tatum, use Channing Tatum, and put him in some worthwhile scenes, damn it. And I guess the last problem I had with not only the characters but also the film in general was Eggsy's relationship with the Swedish princess that he saved at the end of the first film and also fucked in the asshole. I actually like the idea of them bringing back the Swedish princess, and I find it very hilarious that she has a relationship with Eggsy. I thought it was just kind of like a one-night stand kind of thing, a hit it and quit it, but no, they actually end up dating. I like that idea. That's a great idea, and I thought they had so much potential with it. It could have gone so many different directions. But then it just ends up to be a very cliche romance in an action film. You know, he forms a relationship with this one girl and they have troubles with their relationship and trust issues. They have a falling out and then something bad happens to her to where Eggsy's like worried and concerned and wants to save her. It's like his extra motivation to save the world. I'm like, he doesn't need extra motivation. His job is to save the world. The fact that his girlfriend is also afflicted by this problem, I mean, of course that's gonna happen. That's already incidental. She lives in the world, so whatever happens in the world, of course he's gonna want to protect her from that. It's just, they could have made this relationship so much more dynamic, so much more fascinating. I mean, the fact that their relationship started off as a proposal for butt sex, that's interesting, that's funny. I thought, okay, so let's see what we can do with this relationship. But no, we're resorting to the cliche tropes that we would find in any action movie in regards to romance. What a fucking shame! So overall, while I did have fun with Kingsman: The Golden Circle, it just has a lot of problems that bogs it down and keeps it from exceeding the first film. And it just comes off as, it's okay. You know, if you're a big fan of Kingsman: The Secret Service, you're gonna see this film anyway, regardless of what I think of it. But if you don't see it, I don't think anybody's really gonna get mad at you. I think a lot of people are gonna feel like this film is inferior to the first, and they'd be correct. But it still is a fun time to a certain degree. You know, I did enjoy it in some parts. It just isn't as fun as Kingsman: The Secret Service. So if you go in with that mentality, you'll be fine. But if you're expecting it to be better, it's gonna disappoint you. But as always, guys, I'm not the end-all be-all opinion when it comes to Kingsman: The Golden Circle. I would love to know what you guys thought about the film as well. Did you enjoy it? Do you think it's better than the first film? Do you think it's the best action film of 2017? Or is it really boring, daunting, repetitive, and it just couldn't live up to the first film? And let me know, what is your favorite over-the-top action spy film? Comment below, let me know, and stay tuned. My top 10 list of the worst romantic leads in anime is coming soon. It will be coming out this weekend. Stay tuned for that. And you might possibly get a new movie review and a new anime review as well. So stay tuned for that. And as always, guys, if you'd like to see more videos on this channel, be a part of the Black Critic crew, please hit that subscribe button below. Like this video if you really enjoyed it. And I'm talking about the second. The secret agent known as BCG. Till then, peace, YouTube.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains,